This is Damon, and he quit farming to make over $1.5 million a year building fences and decks. And the crazy part is, he only works 3 days a week.
We spend a lot of our days doing things that aren't productive. That probably saves me an hour every day.
In this video, he'll break down how anyone can make $1.5 million a year working part-time.
Keep in mind, I'm in a business with one employee working maybe 25 hours a week.
The costliest mistake that every entrepreneur makes when first starting out.
If you don't do that, you're gonna run into trouble on the first job you lose money on. If you're quoting by the project, do not separate out labor and materials.
The one trait every entrepreneur needs to let go of before making millions.
Man, I hate to admit this, but I would say right now we're probably booking 6 jobs a week. You can probably get a fence on every 4th house that answers the door you knock on.
And at last, the blueprint to building a 7-figure business with 0 office staff.
And it will double your acceptance rate, and that'll change your business right there.
Wow. Damon, I'm excited to be here with you and talk to you about how you run your business, share everything we can with our audience. So thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about what you do, what kind of business you're in, and how you got into it.
We're Gibson Fence and Deck. We build high-end fences and decks in Seattle. As far as getting into this line of business, I started out building field fencing as a farmer and kind of doing that as a side project. And from there, it just kind of slowly lapsed into doing privacy fences for residential clients. And then making the jump from doing that to doing like high-end fences and decks happened after working for a high-end fence and deck company here in Seattle.
Interesting. So what was it like from farmer to contractor? Was that a tough transition? What can you highlight?
Well, yeah, I had a background of carpentry and stuff that ran in my family, so it wasn't a huge jump. But I'll say as far as transitions go, it was about as easy as it gets because farming is a lot harder.
So I see you got a lot of lumber there. Can we go check that out?
Absolutely, yeah, let's take a look.
It smells great too.
Yeah, thank you.
So what about the environment that you grew up in? Were your parents entrepreneurs? Can you share a little bit about that side of the story?
I would say the entrepreneurial kind of side of my personality definitely came from my grandfather. And that whole side of the family, my mom's side of the family, we're all contractors. And so I worked for my grandpa when I was young. I would say that's definitely what got me going.
So that's the environment as a 6, 7-year-old, right? Like, are they building up the entrepreneur in you at that point as well, or did you have breaks in between?
I would say that came later, probably after graduating from high school, and yeah, kind of worked on a framing crew. And then yeah, from there, kind of pretty quickly learned that college wasn't probably the right option for me, and from there got into farming. So yeah, we did strawberries and apples.
Gotcha. Do you think if your grandpa wasn't an entrepreneur and got you into cutting boards, contracting, do you think you'd be in the same place? How did that build the foundation for you to be where you are today?
Yeah, I would not be in the same place without that.
Big deal.
It was just a real blueprint for a type of life, where you build it yourself. Also too, his interest in, kind of a lot like your guys' channel, talking about the brass tacks, how it works, how much money you're able to make, different pathways and the pros and cons of all of those. It just kind of made it normal and demystified, knowing that running a business, owning a business was something that wasn't a pie in the sky plan, but was available at any moment. I would say that was the most important lesson from that.
It's amazing because as a father, you're a father, I have 3, 5, and 7, that it's so important to start that early, right?
Having that baseline of knowledge can be useful in any career path, for sure.
Quick question for you guys. Do you think entrepreneurship is a trait that you're born with, or is that something you develop? We'd love to hear from you. Comment below. All right, so this is where your business operates out of. I want to go check out your home office.
Absolutely, yeah, let's go take a look.
All right, I'll follow you out. Sweet, so you don't need a lot of space to run a business. A couple desks, a little nook here. Beautiful house, by the way.
Thank you.
I love all the real wood.
Oh,
it just feels warm and welcoming. Let's talk about startup costs. What did you have in your pocket when you got the company started?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say I probably have a pretty encouraging answer for people looking to just start out, which is, hey, I had basically nothing.
Nothing.
So I had a 1993 Ford Ranger. I think the truck was $1,800. Super cheap tool canopy. On top of that, the canopy was maybe $300, $400. And then a bunch of super cheap tools. I would say all the tools were a couple thousand, and that's it. That's all I had. So not a lot of barrier to entry if you have a credit card.
A lot of people hesitate to use the credit card, but hey, you got to spend money to make money.
Exactly.
If you don't have a credit card, you don't have money though, what are some ideas to tap into other forms of capital to get going and buy that $2,000 Craigslist truck?
If you're kind of looking at under $5,000 all in, and you're not able to come up with that amount, I would say keep working a little bit longer. If you don't have enough capital to do that, you're going to run into trouble on the first job you lose money on. You're going to go out of business. So you need a little bit, a little bit of padding. A credit card's fine, but something that allows you to spend money because you're an entrepreneur now. The money that you have to spend is the money that you made.
All right, well, let's get some air. I want to check out all the inventory you have, the lumber, give us an insight, give us a tour. I'll follow you out.
Sounds great. Let's take a look.
All right. All right, how long did it take you to become successful? Walk us through the numbers from year 1 to today.
2 years to the point where the business was comfortably paying my bills, which to me felt like a huge success.
That was success, okay.
Yeah. When I first started out doing it full time, I was still farming. And I think that kind of really put a damper on my success as a builder. But I would say, yeah, probably, man, I hate to admit this, but it was probably in the neighborhood of maybe 60,000.
What did you go to year 2, year 3? What did that look like? Double it, triple it, or?
Pretty plateaued. As soon as I started doing this full time, me and my boy moved to Seattle. And keep in mind, I'm in a business with one employee working maybe 25 hours a week. I think it was like 66, 70. And
when did you break $500,000?
that'd be after I started hiring people, so maybe only like 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago, okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, so it took you more than, say, 5 years to get to that number. And just recently, with last year, you're at 1.5 for revenue per year.
The biggest hurdle is getting from working for yourself to getting up to working with employees and making more. Because when you first start hiring employees, you're gonna make less. So that can be a big step. And it's usually more than one employee to get there,
Got it. All right, Damon's got more demand than he can handle, and he spends 0 on ads. Can you make sure you remind me later to ask him later about that in the video? Sweet. All right, well, why don't we go check out an actual project that you wrapped up within the Seattle area. We'll show you guys what that fence looks like, and we'll continue on the conversation.
Sounds great, let's do it.
All right, boom. So where are we at? Tell us a little bit about this project. What does it cost the customer and anything else that's important?
Yeah, this is Normandy Park here. Yeah, mahogany deck with cable railing.
Wow. This deck is actually a lot more beautiful than I expected, Damon, honestly. I've never seen this type of wood.
Anytime you use a natural product, especially something like these really ultra hard wood mahoganies, they can warp and kind of fight, against you. So I would say on a deck this size, we'll replace 3 to 4 boards after install. We just factor that in.
Do you provide some warranty when you do a deck like this?
It's not an official warranty, but if 10 years from now this deck has failed, we will replace it.
Yeah. What is your secret to closing so many deals? Give us some insight into what you think, how you think, maybe even the script that you use to secure some of these jobs.
The most important thing is to look at a lot of projects, have a big intake funnel. As far as closing the deals that you're looking at, I would say make sure that the proposal you're giving to the client is exactly what they're looking for.
Sounds easy, but how do you accomplish that? By asking many, many questions?
Yes, and listening to balance your knowledge and your expertise in different solutions that you can offer them with an understanding of what they're looking for. And when you can meet those two things, so you have a realistic project to offer them and a good understanding of what they want, that's kind of the sweet spot.
How long is it before you show up, you look at a project before the person actually commits on average? What do you think?
Probably the average is about a week, but it can be as long as years and as short as like a few minutes after sending the quote. But yeah, the average is probably a week, and generally there's some questions back and forth. And so, doing a good job of understanding and answering those questions so that they feel comfortable with how the project will proceed is a big one.
So it's common to hear entrepreneurs working around the clock, a lot of hours they put in, but you're doing this a couple times a week with no office staff. So how is that possible?
First off, I'll say it's long days on the days I do work. I'm probably doing right now maybe 45 to 55 hours a week.
No way, in a 3-day span.
3 days one week, 4 days the next, so half weeks working.
And that's because you're a full-time dad, taking care of your daughter and son, right? And that's mainly why you went from full-time to part-time?
Exactly, yeah. I'm on daddy duty exactly half the time, and then I'm on work duty exactly half the time. We spend a lot of our days doing things that aren't productive. How many times as business owners do we write a similar email 15, 20 times in a day? Now I run off of email templates. That probably saves me an hour every day. And phone conversations can easily be an hour long that you could have done in 2 minutes, And so all of those things, you just kind of have to keep track, if you want to be, lean and efficient.
What's your advice to those watching who are thinking of the same thing, from going Monday through Friday to be like, hey, it sounds like based on Damon's story, I could pull off a 3-day week rather than do in 5. What are some steps to take to kind of move in that direction? What would you do?
Step number 1 is be worth more money, and that starts in your head. For me, that was a transformation.
Absolutely.
I could not believe that I was worth the amounts of money that we're asking for now. I feel guilty about asking wealthy people to pay me. As strange as that sounds, and I know that that's not unusual. I know a lot of us struggle with that. Step number 2 is make sure you have your efficiencies set up. Working endlessly in the entrepreneurial way allows you to be inefficient. And so working a few days a week as opposed to 7 days a week forces you to be efficient. So get those efficiencies set up at the same time. Get done a similar amount of work that you got done in 7 days, get that done in 3 or 4. It's doable.
Yeah, and make sure you check out our videos that we've done with Paul Akers, all about lean. We talk about lean manufacturing, but really lean business operation, where you find the wasteful emails over and over, create a template, saved an hour, phone calls from 1 hour to 5 minutes now. So we'll put the video right here, so check it out. What services do you provide as a company, and which ones are the most profitable?
We do fence construction, deck construction, and outdoor wood restoration and staining. Probably most consistently is fences that we've bid using our tight parameters. We'll never lose money on those. Conversely, I would say probably the most lucrative decks are simple. Like this deck here is...
It's a gorgeous deck.
Yeah. It looks great, but it's fairly straightforward. It's a big rectangle with a couple sets of stairs and a cable railing. We know how long that's going to take. Even if it takes longer than that, it's not going to be that much longer. And so those are pretty safe bets, and we're used to it. Really into our comfort zone.
Gotcha. If the only thing stopping you from launching a 7-figure business of your own is knowing how to take those first steps, then listen up, because we're all about giving entrepreneurs the best tools to succeed. What if getting your business off the ground was just one click away? With Taylor Brands, it is. Taylor Brands is a business builder with all the tools you need to start, grow, and manage your business. From setting up an LLC, which will keep your business and personal assets separate, getting your business bank account, and registering a web domain and trademarks, and more. Taylor Brands is the fast and affordable way to start your business, and it couldn't be easier to use. Just follow their personalized guided tools and let Taylor Brands handle the rest. No paperwork, pricey legal fees, or going to 6 different places just to get your idea off the ground. Organize invoices and bookkeeping, get access to legal documents, and a financial manager. It could all be set up by Taylor Brands in just a few short minutes. So, don't sit on your next great idea. Click the link in the description below and become a business owner today. Let's do Blitz time with Damon. Thanks, guys, for submitting your questions. First one is, what keeps you from not getting bored by having such a specialized building company, building fences all the time?
It's kind of counterintuitive, but being able to focus on a more narrow range of products, right? It allows you to find efficiencies in that and to get better and better at it. That's, I think, where the interest comes from.
Looking back, what's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self about entrepreneurship?
Don't subsidize wealthy people. You're worth a lot more than you think you are. And subsidizing people who are, already wealthy, that's not a great way to start out a business. So that would be my advice for myself and most people starting out.
How has running this business changed you personally?
I think entrepreneurship is good for learning responsibility.
Okay. If you weren't a contractor and could never again do farming, what would you be doing?
Oh no.
Yeah, just gotta pick it. Come on. Quick.
I guess I'd just try to be a dad full time.
All right. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Probably a musician. Maybe Neutral Milk Hotel, if they would do a show for me and my friends after dinner. I don't know.
Oh, that's good. All right, a couple more. How do you balance your mental health as you're handling everything alone?
Handle it. Don't not handle it. That's about the best advice I can give. It's going to be different for everyone.
That's it. So you work only about 3 days a week. How responsive are you, Damon? Because we interviewed other entrepreneurs that talk about the importance of answering that first call, answering that first ring, and building a customer base. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, it can definitely be challenging. My schedule is definitely dictated by being a single dad. So that takes priority number 1. And so we have a system set up where they can fill out a request form online. And I would say at this point, probably about 90% of people are doing that. Maybe 10% are actually phoning in.
Gotcha.
And so there's a fairly automated system where they get sent an email to start the scheduling process for looking at their project after they fill out their referral form. And so that's a pretty instant response. On the phone calls, I try to get to it that same day, and that seems to be good enough. I think answering it instantly would be much better.
So what are some insights and secrets to making that work?
If you're going to go the answering the phone route and that's your intake funnel, I would say answer it before it ever goes to voicemail.
Absolutely.
I think for us, and this isn't going to work everywhere, I think out in the country where things are more face-to-face, this system wouldn't work well. But in Seattle, people like a less personal way of reaching out. It's
the reality, right?
They can have one where it's just a matter of filling out a form and then everything gets taken care of for them. Most clients like that, and then the personal stuff happens at the site visit. You know.
So now that we have the tools to get into this industry, this business, give our viewers a clear roadmap for getting your first job.
Absolutely, the first step is to get a website, Google business profile, all of that low-hanging fruit, get that set up. It shows that you have some legitimacy. Step 2 is to go get the jobs. You can't wait for Google probably to find it for you if you're just starting out. And so,
you're not doing PPC or...
I would avoid that if you're just starting out, especially if you're doing it like how I did on a budget. Just a simple flyer is a great way to start. Knock on some doors. If they're not home, leave the flyer. You'll be able to get enough work to stay busy if you don't have any
Just
employees.
walk around neighborhoods, hang this on doors?
If you can get them to answer the door, that's great. I would say probably, like for me, you'd be walking around a neighborhood and there's a fence falling down. Knock on the door, you probably have a 25% chance of building them a fence. If you're just starting out and you're bidding things a little bit lower, you can probably get a fence on every fourth house that answers the door you knock on.
Okay. Is the deck and fence, as we talk about it, not your thing, guys? Then check out the UpFlip podcast with more than 100 business ideas that you wish you knew earlier. How many employees do you have? I'll ask a few questions. And what do you pay them? And if we look online, everyone's talking about how Damon quotes competitive prices, and yet you're also paying very competitive wages to your team. How does that all work?
The first question is, I have 10 people working for me right now. We're in the process of hiring, so we'll probably get to around 14 and kind of plateau there for a while. But yeah, as far as what we pay them, basically the scale is 25 an hour is basically not really having experience. So we need to train them from zero. And we don't like to hire people like that very often. $30 an hour is you have experience and you're ready to contribute. 35 an hour is all of our systems and you're quick and productive at them. You don't need to be managed to run projects under a crew lead. 40 is your crew lead, 45 is your crew lead, and can do complex projects. 50 is you're managing multiple crews.
And talk to me about the whole comments from the public saying you're competitive pricing. I mean, how did the two make the marriage work?
Well, first off, opinions differ for sure. One person's competitive price is a complete ripoff, especially if the last quote they got was 2008 or something, right? I would say the most important thing that we do is I have quoting algorithms, I guess for lack of a better word, where it's, and we're turning these into actual calculators that clients will be able to use on the website to generate a quote for themselves. But we take into account all of the factors, like on a deck, for example. Do you have a railing? What type of railing? Is it ground level? Stairs? How many? All of those types of things.
Wow.
That comes together and each category is added up. That's your price. And so I used to do the thing of, I wonder how much these people would be willing to pay. Oh, that seems too high. Let's go down a little bit. Yeah, and I think that's always the temptation. Now I run that algorithm. It's the same for every client, no matter how wealthy or poor they look. That's what we make money at. I can have confidence in that. And then on the job cost tracking, which is a recent addition, it's incredibly valuable because now we've done that project. How did we do on it? Did we make money? Did we not?
Right.
Then I alter the algorithm to increase the price or decrease it if it's, we want to do more of those and they're super lucrative. So.
And supplies in your industry are always fluctuating, right?
Yes.
Lumber today is X, tomorrow it's totally different.
Yep.
How do you stay on top of all those price changes?
Yeah, during the material shortages, I developed relationships with a lot of different suppliers. And that became necessary because one would run out and you'd have to go to the other one and stuff. There's a remarkable difference in price on materials between different suppliers. So that's a good piece of advice if you're starting out. Talk to people about who their suppliers are. Find a lot of different options and go with the best quality, best price. The other thing too is I think if materials are the defining factor on your quote price, Explore charging more. Labor should by far be your highest factor on a quote. And if it's not, you're either not paying your guys enough, and that's going to cause problems in your system, or your quotes are just way too low. You should barely notice the cost of materials.
What's one trait that you, as an entrepreneur, had to let go of, and in order to sort of cross that $1 million in revenue threshold?
The most important thing for me was letting go of micromanaging.
Do you struggle with that?
I would say, yeah. And I think most entrepreneurs do, to a certain degree or another. But yeah, kind of relying more on, hiring well, good, intelligent people, and then relying on them. I've been surprised, and I've kind of, learned good people are capable of at least as much as I am. And that's been a pleasant surprise.
For those who are struggling to let go and stop micromanaging, what do you tell them? What's your piece of advice?
Give it a try, and you can always take baby steps and see how it goes. Try to find that balance between offering them what they need to succeed and stepping away enough to let them succeed.
So you've mentioned having 8 work vehicles that in total cost less than probably half of a brand new Sprinter van. How did you pull that off? What does that do to your business too? Because obviously you're not buying brand new cars.
Yeah, it frees up a lot of cash for paying guys more. The process is easy. Get on Craigslist. Don't buy Ford, buy Chevy or, Japanese vehicles if you can. So we do Astro vans. Those things run forever. Chevy box trucks are great. And then if you can do something smaller, man, the best work van in the world is a Toyota Sienna.
No way.
Minivan. Just take the seats out of the back.
That's a family, man. What are you talking about?
It is, yeah.
So you're not big into like brand new cars, big branding on your cars, nothing like that?
No. We've started putting vinyl on the work vehicles, but just little ones. They're not nice enough to wrap.
You don't think you're losing business because you're not going the other route?
Not losing enough business to justify the expense.
Gotcha.
So we could put that effort and money somewhere else and get 10, 20, 30 times the return. So it makes a lot of sense to go that route.
As Warren Buffett says, it's great to learn from your mistakes. It's better to learn from other people's mistakes. If you want a complete blueprint on starting and growing a business with a network of world-class entrepreneurs that will help you avoid these costly mistakes, then the UpFlip Academy is a must. Click the link in the description to claim your free access. A big reason of why you can do a 3-day business operation is your team, obviously, right now. The question is, how do you find these 8 players? What are some red flags to look for when you're hiring guys for this type of work?
The absolute most important bit of advice is hire before you need the person, right? So for us, the busiest time is the middle of summer. Don't try to hire in the middle of summer. Hire in the middle of winter. That's the best time to hire. You're gonna have a bigger pool to choose from. And that's what it boils down to is you need to interview a lot of people and try a lot of people out to find that diamond in the rough. A really important thing to consider when you're hiring is you're hiring your company culture, right? The aggregate of these people's personalities and who they are as individuals is what you will become as a company. And a big thing that we've learned in the last 2 months is that some of your best guys, the ones you love them, you like them, they're making you lots of money, they're not a good fit for your company.
Really? You like them, you love them, they're doing a good job, but they're not a good fit? That doesn't make sense to me.
It can be things that when you take a closer look, they're not good for morale. People don't maybe enjoy working with them as much as other people. You might even have some clients that, tangle with them every once in a while, but in the end, maybe the client's happy because the end product was so good. It's important to look at those things, and so in the last couple months, we've let, a couple people go that were bad for morale. And so what ultimately was a very hard short-term decision has been transformational for the health of the company.
You've recently started job cost tracking. What are some tangible benefits from doing that as opposed to the previous version of doing it?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost is knowing if and when and why you're making money or not. So we do a ton of different projects and we focus on fences and decks, but there's a lot of subcategories in there, types of fences, types of decks, economy, high-end, large, small. So that information is now at our fingertips, and a lot of it was not intuitive. Some really big ticket jobs are ones that our margins were too tight on, even the real possibility of losing money regularly. And so job cost tracking has kind of pointed us towards focusing on jobs where our margin is higher and focusing on crew configuration, staff, personnel, systems that work towards bigger net, basically.
How was it before then, Damon?
Gut feelings.
No way.
Gut feelings, and we did job cost tracking, but it was plus or minus 10, 25%, which isn't good enough when your margins are close to that. Right?
How is it different now then? Was it a software? Is it a spreadsheet that you like religiously follow every job?
Yeah, so we use Jobber for all the job cost tracking as well as a few other things. But it allows my crew leads to enter their expenses that they've made for that particular job on Jobber, really easy to do. Same with everyone's timesheets. The quote system is also through Jobber, and so basically you have the total ticket amount, how much labor was, how much materials and other costs were, how much you made. So you know how much you made per hour per employee or lost. We've been surprised. Our highest margin is on economy fences. Would not have guessed that.
Take us through your revenue and margins.
Yeah, so last year we did 1.5 million in sales. That's gross.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great number though.
It is, yeah. The more important number though is net, and
Yes.
I'll say it much, much lower than that. But I think around 120, something like that.
All right, so you're just shy of 10%, I would say. I mean, just mathematically, if I'm right, you guys? So
Yes, yeah.
how many jobs are you booking on an average month then? Take last year, I guess.
Yeah, last year I was running 3 crews of 2 people, so 6 people total. Each crew was probably averaging, maybe completing a job every 2 weeks on average.
Okay.
This season though, we're a lot more productive. I would say right now we're probably booking 6 jobs a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, but we're booking
you're
ourselves
booking out.
way into the future, yeah.
What's the average job cost, value, income?
Probably somewhere between 15 and 25.
Okay.
Some are much higher and some are much lower, but that's probably a good average.
Besides Jobber, is there any other system softwares that you use, or what does that look like?
Well, I would say our quoting system is a big one. I kind of mentioned, doing algorithms. I can quote a complex project usually in about 15 minutes. And so
That's pretty cool.
I devote 1 day a week to all of that stuff.
What's the mistake that guys in your line of work make when it comes to quoting estimating? I wouldn't know. Are there common mistakes?
Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
you need to stop doing this because you're wasting time. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I can tell you because it's all the stuff that I used to do when I first started out. I would say the biggest one that I see that's really common is giving people a quote that breaks out the cost of materials and labor and then gives the client an opportunity to scrutinize your labor cost. You don't want, that's too much for a client to deal with. It's not responsible for you. It's not a great strategic option. So if you're quoting by the hour, absolutely, that's a great way of doing it. If you're quoting by the project and it's a set price, do not separate out labor and materials because they'll just bargain with you.
You're saying just give me one number?
Yep.
Paul, your project for this fence is going to cost you 20 grand.
Exactly.
What if I want to say, Damon, how often do people say, well, can you break it down for me? What's what? Or people honestly don't care at the end of the day?
It's very rare. It's not super rare that they ask. It's very rare that I don't get a job because I say no. And it's really easy to say no. Just say, well, we bid by the project and that's your guaranteed price, which is great. And the other thing too is, don't be afraid of people saying no. If someone calls you on the phone and they want a ballpark price, give them that ballpark price. They're giving you a gift, which is saving you a trip out there. If you give them that ballpark price and they say, yeah, that's within my budget, you now have about a 50% chance that they're going to say yes instead of a 10% chance. And so you can bid a lot more projects that way by pre-qualifying and all that kind of stuff. Don't be afraid to talk money with clients.
What do you pay yourself if you're willing to share? Because you don't come across as a flashy guy and there's no Ferraris or, Porsches or whatever. Like, how do you like to spend your money?
Yeah, as far as what I paid myself, so last year, I think it probably came out to about $50 an hour. So good, decent income, but not a lot. As far as what I spend my money on, not a lot of flashy stuff. I got a couple kids, so a lot of money goes there.
Yeah, they take a lot of money.
Money well spent.
Yeah.
I guess maybe the most glamorous thing I bought is a hot tub. Nothing too flashy. I bought a Honda to drive me and my kids around. And so, Used, oh yeah, 2003.
Wow. Guys, if you're enjoying this episode, please take a second to like and subscribe. We really appreciate your support. Thank you. You partner up with a supplier that's international.
Yeah.
Walk us through how that happened. Why is that good for the business as opposed to somebody local? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, working directly with the importer of a product that we use a ton of has been great.
Is that specifically mahogany or
mahogany? Yeah.
Something else?
Some other stuff, but mostly mahogany is what we get from them.
Where does it come from?
The mahogany comes from Southeast Asia.
Wow.
And like related countries, a bunch of them, Borneo, Malaysia, even the Philippines. Oftentimes when I contact her, she's messaging me from Thailand. Or,
Oh, wow.
You know, for her to have that experience saying there's a different color on this shipment of mahogany because it came from a different farm. Or, you know, this variety of mahogany will have these advantages, these disadvantages. Having that specific knowledge is great. It gets passed along to the clients, and they love to hear about that kind of stuff too and have those options. Also, just to be able to build a mahogany deck for someone for about the same price as composite, that's a rare opportunity for a lot of clients.
So it's not something that I think everyone needs to do, have a direct relationship with the supplier, right? If they're just doing fencing with cedar and decks with cedar, right? I mean, is it?
No, probably not. Although I would develop a relationship with the lumberyard you're getting that stuff from. There's just knowledge that they have that you don't. It's good to know that.
Yeah, make them your partner.
Yes.
You spend absolutely zero on ads, is my understanding, right? Digital ads. Because you still print flyers and door hangers. Do you still do that?
Yeah, we do spend a pretty decent amount on marketing, not on ads.
But you still have a lot of customers, more than some businesses. So what does that boil down to?
Yeah, quite a few factors go into our marketing system. For sure, referrals that's by far the best with any business, especially if you're just starting out, because you don't have to stay that busy when you're working with yourself, right? The other thing too is everything is happening digitally, right? So a 5-star Google review is a referral. And I'm noticing more and more clients that find us online and end up hiring us. A lot of times they're saying they chose us because of our Google reviews. And so that's kind of a referral that will apply to anyone who Googles you.
And not just today, but
forever.
Yeah.
And the same applies for a 1-star review.
Sort of like this interview. It's going to be on YouTube forever, as long as YouTube exists.
Yes, yeah.
So what else could be a factor?
It's old-fashioned, but talking to people. Things as simple as being friendly with the client, keeping the lines of communication open, checking in and say, hey, I wanted to check in, see how the project is going. Are you happy with anything? Is there anything we can improve? Get to know them a little bit. Check in with them after the project is done, as it's finishing, a couple weeks later. Just keep the lines of communication open and you'll get referrals. It's weird, yeah, that can help. And so a lot of times it's just a bunch of different pieces fitting together. I'll say though, the cheapest, most effective marketing in the world is after you quote a job, check in with the client.
Just follow up.
Yeah, simple as that. It'll increase your acceptance rate by maybe 150, 200%.
Wow.
I don't know, maybe everyone's doing that. I didn't used to do that. I do it and my acceptance rate has doubled. Yeah.
Be surprised. I think very little percentage of people actually do that.
Yeah, so that's free and it will double your acceptance rate and that'll change your business right there.
Do you have any regrets? Think about 1 or 2 lessons, opportunities, and what's one piece of advice you could leave with our viewers in general?
The biggest regret is not systemizing earlier. Put the 10 hours into something that might only take 1 to only have to do it 1 time, That's good. Yeah. Would have done that. And that might be the piece of advice I'd leave people with too. Systemize. You deserve it.
Early enough?
Yeah.
As early as possible?
Systemize early, late, just do it now.
What's holding people back, you think, though? Like, why did it take you so long? Just busy in the trenches, or I don't think I can do it, and you just kick the can down the road? What does it boil down to?
Both. And I think that's really intuitive too, because that's exactly the thought process. You have so much going on. I don't have time to systemize. I need to put out fires, and that's true, right? You do need to put those fires out, but maybe take twice as long to put this fire out, and then the next time it will put itself out. I found that actually literally chasing those feelings of resistance and negativity that I have towards certain things is where the lower stress is, more success.
Wow.
Things feel cleaner and more balanced in that setting. When I feel like I don't want to do something, that's an instant signal, well, that's the thing I need to do.
That's well said, yeah.
I think a lot of people are probably like that. Some people, though, they're just go-getters, They maybe just need to direct their effort better. For me, it's if something was out of my comfort zone, I would walk 10 miles to circumvent that instead of going
straight
through
into it.
Yeah.
Building decks and fences piqued your interest? How about building sheds and making $1.2 million a year? Check out episode 120 with Anthony from Outdoor Office. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.